Hello everyone, it has been 2 weeks since I last talked to you. I made it through my crazy 2 weeks of just stress city, and I want to tell you what I've been doing and show you my final project and kind of represent my project to you, and that's what we're gonna do today. So it was definitely a very long 2 weeks of just being so stressed and overwhelmed and exhausted. But I made it through, and I'm so excited and I'm so happy with the way that my project came out. And all of my classes are now coming to a close, which is wonderful. And now the only thing that I'm working on currently is a presentation for my environmental design research class, which I have on Monday, and my thesis book, the research part of my thesis book, which is also going well. And maybe once I'm a little more close to finishing, I can show you guys a little bit into my thesis book. But for now, I'm just gonna represent to you my final project for my timber studio. Okay, so this is kind of just a walkthrough of what my presentation was, what my boards looked like, and what my project was really about. So just to start, as you can see, this board here is just our initial master plan for the project from my group. The two blue circles are both of the housing projects, and the yellow circle is the biomass facility. And the orange arrows are the linking objects, which are the bridges that were designed by the fourth member of our group. So now looking at the diagrams below from left to right, you can see the first diagram is just showing the overall site and the density on either side of the river. The next one is showing, it's kind of hard to see, but it's basically just showing the overall concept for our design, which is having 3 elements with 2 linking objects, which would be the 2 housing buildings and the biomass facility being the elements, and the bridges are essentially the glue linking all of our projects together. The next diagram is showing basically that green promenade that flows throughout the city, and which is something that we all tried to really incorporate within our projects. And the fourth diagram is showing the types of surrounding buildings around the site. So delineated in blue is the industrial area, which is on the west side of the river, and on the east side of the river is where you have more of the residential area, which we decided to put the live-work building on the industrial side because it relates a little bit more to the industrial, whereas the live-cell building, which is the building that I designed, was on the residential side because it relates a little bit more to that. So here you can see a more developed master plan for our site and how our buildings all relate to the surrounding context and relate to each other. And that is my project right there in the residential neighborhood. And here you can really start to see the density of the area. So this here is one of my earliest concept diagrams, where really from the start I wanted to keep the ground floor as a entirely public ground floor, where on the water side, which is where you see the blue, I would have the restaurants facing the water. Towards the street side would have the retail. And you can see on the street side there's a little jump in elevation. It's about a 6-foot jump. So the retail would meet the street level on the exterior, and within the interior of the retail space there would be a way to step down to the same elevation as the market space and the restaurants. In between the restaurant and retail would be the open market space with those expressive pilotis arched glulam columns, which was an idea that I had from the beginning, so I'm glad that that was something that I was able to carry through to the end. And above all of that public program is the private program of the compartmentalized housing units, which cascade and step down towards the water. And this is just a later concept diagram showing the basic themes that I wanted to represent in my project, such as each unit having views to the water, each unit having access to green space, and each unit addressing the idea of sunlight and how, since each of the units need sun shading, the extended floor used for the green space for each of the units then serves an additional purpose of providing shading for the unit below. And you can really see how, depending on which direction the building is facing and which area of the city the building is facing, there's a very different language in the architecture depending on where it's situated. So facing the street side, there's more of a tall skyscraper type presence, whereas on the water side it's more of this cascading stepping pattern down towards the water. So no two sides are ever the same. So this is my initial presentation board from my first presentation that I had for this project. So it's cool to see how a lot of my initial ideas have carried out through the entire project, which doesn't always happen that way. So here I'm really just showing the overall presence of this green promenade and how much of an integral part it is in the overall city and how it really follows that water's edge, and so that's really something that I wanted to emphasize in my project. And here's just a plan of the first floor of the building showing the program. So you can see the yellow is the clothing retail, which faces the street side. You can see the red, which is the open food market in the center, and the green is the restaurants facing the water's edge. And here's just a section showing the program organization. And here is a circulation diagram showing how you move throughout the building. And you can see those dark orange circles, which show the vertical circulation, which are elevators. And the light orange shows the horizontal circulation, which is a series of bridges that go throughout the building. Also, where needed, there are a series of stairs to get you from different levels as well. And these are my freehand drawn drawings for my final presentation boards. That's facing the south side. This is from the north, and here you can really see, you can get a sense of the bridging that goes on throughout the spaces. And you can see how that element of greenery was carried throughout the project. And that is the longitudinal section. This is from the southeast. And this is the ground floor plan. So here are a few drawings showing the assembly of the housing units and how they could be put together, and how it's basically just this kit of parts that can be utilized to make different configurations. And this is basically just a typical unit configuration for the 20-foot tall unit. So getting into the models, I use this model to show the basic unit configuration for the floor plan, as well as showing the basic concept of what this building is. So essentially it is a series of units that are lifted up off the ground on these glulam arched columns, and the expressiveness of the arched glulam columns in the public spaces are contrasted with the CLT cross-laminated timber panelized system of the modular units above. So it's more of this demonstration of different types of wood construction. So basically you have this one system and it can be duplicated. The units can shift, they can be organized in different ways. And so this can work with both the 10-foot tall unit as well as the 20-foot tall unit. And here is my Lego model, which is every architect's dream, to design a building through Lego form. And so this model was done to experiment with different types of housing configurations and getting the stepping pattern that I wanted. And you can see from this model that, again, each side has a different language depending on where it's facing, the orientation, the surrounding context, and here is my final model, my final 16th model. So here you can really start to get a sense of the scale of the space, what it would feel like to be within this space. You can get a sense of the connections between the units and the public program below. You can get a sense of the scale of the glulam columns. And I like how in this model you can really start to see the shifting of the boxes, the different language of the more flatness of the street side versus the shifting of the units on the water side. And on the street side, the units are shifting just a little bit to follow the path of the street. overall view of my entire presentation. So I hope you liked my re-presentation thing. I had a great time. It was a great studio, so much fun. I learned so many things, and I'm really lucky that I got to take this timber studio because that's an industry that's becoming a lot more popular, and there's a high demand for people that do have knowledge about that. So I'm glad that I got the opportunity to learn as much as I did. Well, by the time you guys watch this, it will be Mother's Day. So to all of you mothers out there, especially my own, Happy Mother's Day, and I hope you have a great week, and I will see you soon. And the consequence to being somewhat well rested is that you are fully coherent, you're fully aware of everything that's going on, you know exactly what your deadlines are, how little time you have to do all of the things that you have to do.